happen for a reason this way?
The possibilities of life are endless. To say that something happens for a reason is a really nice thought, but you never know. We're just living this experience, so I don't know. If things happen for a reason, a lot of times we don't know what those reasons are, and we never will. And I think having that ability to accept that unknown is really important to finding peace, for me at least. We're always putting ourselves in these situations, and there's always multiple options, no matter what, you know? So like, the fact that I got stuck in Costa Rica and my whole career stopped and 95% of people forgot about me, I saw a really dark future for myself for what was gonna be 15 years. I could have gone a couple different directions. And you could say everything for a reason, in that my resilience and my mind decided to go the direction of faith and perseverance, trying to make the most of the situation, turning that loss into a lesson. So if that's what everything is for a reason, then yes, I needed to learn a lot that situation forced me to sit down and deal with. And I think because I had to sit with my own thoughts for 22 months, all of my expectations and dreams on hold or out the window. I was forced to grapple with, like, what do I really care about? How did I get into this situation? How am I gonna get out of this situation? And it taught me patience, forgiveness. First of all, you shouldn't even be in jail for weed. That's the bottom line. No matter what, 2 ounces, 2 grams, 2 pounds, it doesn't matter. My friend had the weed and I didn't know. The cops found it. They did a really shitty job, and so the way that they found it, they ended up blaming me for one of the packs. It's a long story, but yeah, basically, I had to learn how to forgive my friend, who in the moment was focused on self-preservation, like I think anybody would be. He was thinking, if they find this, they're gonna put me in jail, not thinking about anybody else, but thinking about himself. And he could have said it was all his, but he didn't say anything, and so they ended up looking at the gringo, and then finding a next pack, and then saying, oh, it must belong to the gringo because it was underneath where he sat. And it took 22 months for everything to come out play by play as facts as what happened. But the great thing is about forgiveness is that if you hold strong to that principle, at least for me, it worked out. The guy whose weed it was told the whole truth on the stand. Even after multiple times we talked, and you know, he had his human reservations, as anybody would, about basically sacrificing himself for my benefit, because he knew that I didn't have anything to do with it, but he also knew that if he didn't specifically say that I had nothing to do with it, then they were gonna rope me in. I had to play this basically like game of chess, where I forgave him but wasn't too close to him while I was there because I couldn't associate with him, and I was still extremely angry. His decisions had completely changed the course of my life. When it came down to it, I knew that I needed him to tell the truth on the stand. And I don't know when that was going to be, but it ended up finally happening 22 months later. He told the whole fucking truth. Like the whole truth, to the point that it made the cop who was exaggerating, and there was 2 cops. One cop said, the one was in the back with me and the third kid, Jordy, Ghetto. The one who was up front, when it came down to testify, who had never seen anything that I was doing in the back, he was the one who was so confident about where I was and what I was doing and all these things, because he was the one who had made the mistake. I think he was the lead officer, and he is the one who had made the mistake about not finding both of the packets at the same time. So he was very accusatory of me, saying all sorts of things, like he actually said, Mr. Spencer was on the left side of the car. I saw Mr. Spencer open the door and then shut it after he dropped the package out. Now the other cop, who was at the back of the car with me during the whole scene, he was much less sure of what he remembered. He had no confidence in what he really remembered, because it was 22 months before. It wasn't that much weed, you know, it was a few pounds. They see down there, they see way more than that all the time. So it was so trivial that they were even keeping me there, but for some reason they were. He basically said almost the exact story that I said. Both the cops testified separately. The one who was unsure, his story matched mine, and it matched the other 2 guys in the car. So it made the outlier the guy who was so confident and accusing me of being on the left side and all these things. That, coupled with the fact that there was a different amount of weight of weed written down on the paperwork from the time it was first confiscated to the time it went to the lab. Then it was a different amount of weed from the time it went to the lab to the time that it went back to the police station. Written on the paper for everyone to see, discrepancies. He was able to dissect all the different discrepancies in the paperwork. I mean, it was It was crazy that they would be that relaxed about the evidence just like disappearing, and then take that to trial as if that's like, it was like originally 968 grams or something, and then it went back from the lab and it was only 930, and then it somehow it came down to like 912 or some shit like that. So if it's 968 but then it goes down to 912, why didn't it, could it also go down to 500, and then couldn't it also potentially just go back down to 300, which is not even a crime in Costa Rica? Possession of marijuana is not a crime. It's the distribution, the trafficking and the distribution that's a crime. And unfortunately we had, because we told them we were on tour, that we were going to the other side of the country. Oh, you're coming to the other side of the country with vacuum sealed pounds of weed. Trafficking. And I mean, 1 + 1 = 2. That's not what's happening, at least on my end. We found not guilty on December 15th, 2017. I flew home on the 22nd of December, 23rd of December 2017. Got to spend the holiday with my family. I believe I was in the Seattle area for January and February and March of 2018, and then I moved to California. January of 2018 is when I recorded Right Now, the song that's coming out on the record now. But it's actually one of the singles that came out in the beginning of 2022. And it's a great song. I think the second or third song that I recorded when I came back from Costa Rica on this project, on the album project. And it was just funny how time works.